We're going to be looking at the trendy wide receivers from week 9. We're going to be looking at the next-gen sports charts from NFL.com to see the trend lines with these players, to see whether or not we want to pick these wide receivers up off the waiver wire, so we're even dumping back to the waiver wire, or trade for them, trade them away, buy, sell, hold, whatever you can think of with these players. But we're going to be looking at the trends to see what we want to do. But what you want to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with the mouse on your computer. Whatever you need to do to get the job done, because we're helping you set those lineups every week. We're helping you win the waiver wire. We're helping you win those trades and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's look at these players real quick. We got 10 wide receivers to go over today, and we're going to start off with Jahan Dotson. Back-to-back big weeks. We're getting some volume. Curtis Samuel was out, so that could be a big impact here. That could have leaked a few targets his way. Saw 8 targets in this game and saw 10 last week. Caught 4 balls, 69 yards in the touchdown. That touchdown's a huge kicker for his fantasy production, but high-end prospect who did some stuff last year that got him on the radar because he was productive when he was healthy on the field last year. And now we're starting to see him ramp back up a little bit. Is this going to be a long-term trend? We're going to have to wait and see. But things are looking good. He needs to be picked up off waivers if he was still there. He was a waiver wire dandy last week because he was dumped on waivers in a lot of leagues throughout the year because he was slow. He was not scoring much. But now things are ramping back up here. We're starting to see some production. We're starting to see some consistency. Jahan Dotson might be a league winner down the stretch. Might be helping you out in fantasy down the stretch as well. Davante Adams, slow game this week. Slow game last week. We had a quarterback change. That's an issue there. But we saw 7 targets. 7 targets is pretty solid. 7 targets last week, 12 targets the week before. Sometimes it runs good, sometimes it runs bad. And you know what? As long as you're getting workload, you're running routes, you're getting opportunities, that's a good thing. Sometimes it just doesn't equate to fantasy points. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. But you got 7 targets here. You probably had a good amount of snaps, 96% snap share last week. So something you need to pay attention to with Davante Adams. I'm not too worried about this. Well, I am a little bit due to the quarterback change. But 7 targets is fine for me. And it might be a buy low opportunity. Chris Olave finally scored that touchdown. We only have a few touchdowns on the season. 6 catches, 46 yards. Got you 16 fantasy points. It's been up and down this year for Chris Olave, but he's getting a lot of targets. He's getting a lot of air yards, and that equates to fantasy production, especially when you hit the end zone. So he's a guy you need to hold on tightly on your roster. Don't trade him away unless you're selling on the high, which is not happening in redraft. It's not like it's dynasty. So a guy you're just happy to have on your team. Noah Brown. It's more about CJ Stroud here. CJ Stroud is good. CJ Stroud slings it. We got to talk about Tank Dell too, because Tank Dell is amazing as well. We talked about Tank Dell a lot last week because this matchup against Tampa Bay, they're going to funnel it in the passing game because they stuffed the run, and CJ Stroud's going to be pushed to throw it. The offensive line's been up and down as of late due to injuries. Noah Brown coming in as a sign of light, seeing some opportunities. 6 targets in this game, catching all of them for 153 yards and a touchdown. People are going to be running to him off waivers. Tank Dell's the dude. The thing about this is the ball's going to spread around to these wide receivers because CJ Stroud is good, and he can do that, and he can push it downfield, and it's really going to be a gamble on which wide receiver is going to hit on any given week. Could be Noah Brown on some weeks. Tank Dell's going to have a lot of weeks. Nico Collins is going to have a lot of weeks. That's just how the cookie's going to crumble here because CJ Stroud is good, and we've known this. We've known this. DeAndre Hopkins, 11 targets with Will Levis at quarterback against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who allow a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. Hung you a 10 spot, 34 points the week prior. This is what you expect from him. At 10 points isn't exciting, but again, we saw 11 targets, still getting volume. But the trend here is he's getting deeper targets with Will Levis. And that's a good thing to see. Seeing him get those deeper targets, because you're going to miss on a lot of those. You're going to miss on some. But that gives him more opportunity for splash weeks. And he's getting volume. And if Will Levis is in there, DeAndre Hopkins, you're just perking your ears up even more because he's getting a lot of targets and he's getting deeper targets, which is a good thing to see. Amari Cooper, never forget about him again. Never, ever, ever. Even when things are on the low. He's being consistent, too. 3 of his last 4 weeks, he's gotten you over double-digit PPR fantasy points. He hung 24 points this week. Almost 25. On the Arizona Cardinals, they were dilapidated. You could score on them with ease. 27-0 Browns. But still, never forget about Amari Cooper. Jackson Smith-Njigba is trending up. 3 games in a row with good production after a slow start, and we're getting more volume, we're getting more targets. 7 targets in this game. However, the game script called for it. We are in games where the game script is calling for this team to push the football. We had the Cardinals on here. We had a tough one against the Browns, and we got a tough one here against the Ravens. And it called for them to push the pace in the passing game. Jackson Smith-Njigba was getting more opportunity, but prior to that, the first few weeks of the season, he was getting about a 20% target share. Wide receivers who were getting a 20% target share you want to pick up. Jackson Smith-Njigba, if for whatever reason he's still on waivers, pick him up because he's a flyer for the rest of the season. Deontay Johnson's still good. He's just rarely on the field, but last 3 weeks he has been productive. So that is something you want to lean on to. If you have him, don't be discouraged. If he's healthy on the field, you got to start him to see what happens. But he's back. He's back doing his thing on the field. We have a good 3-week trend line here. The thing about him is every year he gets hurt. Now we're looking at Demario Douglas, and if you picked him up off waivers, you don't hate yourself right now. 10.5 PPR fantasy points, 7 targets. Can't really ask for much out of that. Juju Smith-Schuster saw some targets. Jalen Reagor saw some targets. This was a game script where the Patriots had to throw the football. Washington threw the football, and these guys got targets, and that's all you can ask for. And if you could reel in some deep balls, reel in some big plays, you got a splash moment. However, we scored enough to get you in there, keep you competitive. That's what Demario Douglas did, but 7 targets is good for the next few games if you want to feel him out for a bit. Mike Evans is a stud. Mike Evans is a stud, and he will always be a stud. Should be a future Hall of Famer because he just hangs 1,000-yard seasons out there. You guys left him for dead in drafts. He was going for cheap. We were saying that. Got you another one. Got you another one. Mike Evans. Watch him on the practice reports this week. See what's going on with his health because I saw him banged up while watching the ticket. See what's up with him. Those are the trends for the wide receivers this week. We went over 10 wide receivers on the next gen stats charts on NFL.com, and we went over the stats, we went over the trends and everything else. Drop what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.